What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're here with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for tonight's single game showdown slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Thursday Night Football, Minnesota Vikings, and the Los Angeles Rams. Week 8 already. It's crazy. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. In this video, we will analyze the injuries that impact tonight's slate, and there are quite a few that we have to monitor throughout the day. We have low-risk lineup construction tips and core plays for 50-50s, double-ups, and head-to-heads, as well as ideas, strategies, and tips for the largest GPPs and largest prizes that both DraftKings and FanDuel have to offer. Let's not waste time. Let's get into it. We'll start with the Minnesota side, and the most impactful injury we have to monitor for them is the availability of TJ Hockenson, their star tight end. Hockenson, remember, was placed on injury reserve to start the year after injuring his knee late last season. He still has not gotten into full practice. He was designated for return, and his practice window was open, but still just 2 limited practices this week. I'm not sure they activate him without a full practice. And again, a short week here. They have a full 10 days after this before their next game. That feels like the more likely scenario for Hockenson. Let's go through the scenarios, though, if he's active, if he's not. If he's active, he is $5,200 on DraftKings. Not sure he gets that full 90% workload like we saw before his injury last year, just based on the timing of the injury and his lack of full practice participation. But he would still be relatively popular at $5,200 because there's not many guys in this area that the field will be looking to play. On FanDuel, he is $9,000. So a little more pricey over on FanDuel, but still a reasonable play over there as well. Now, if he's out, and this is what we expect, just to be clear, if he's out, Johnny Munt, who's running 2 to 3 times the routes as Josh Oliver, he's $2,800. He'll be a very popular punt, the old Munt punt. $2,800, we expect him to be popular. Josh Oliver, similar to if you play Jets showdown slates, Jeremy Ruckert, Josh Oliver, 2 of the same guys, 1K to 2K in price. Maybe see a couple targets. It depends on the lineup that you are building. Munt will be extremely popular if Hockenson is out, not Oliver. They're the same price on FanDuel, $6,500 a month. Pretty cheap over here as well. Yep, both $6,500. Now, there is an open roster spot on the Vikings active roster, which may lead you to think, oh, well, that's open for TJ Hockenson. However, they also have their guard, Dalton Risner, who is designated to return. He actually has practiced fully this week. So we expect it to be Risner who is activated, not Hockenson. Now, again, we could be wrong, recording this at 10 a.m. Eastern, but we'll know by 4 p.m. Eastern who is active and who is not for both the Vikings and the Rams. And if Risner is active, that bumps their offense a little bit. If Hockenson is active, we already ran through the scenarios here. On the defensive side of the ball, Blake Cashman, their inside linebacker, he is still out, so that bumps the running backs and the tight ends for the Rams. Not that Kyren Williams needs any more bumps in projections, but that's a scenario for the Vikings. Now, if we go to the Rams side, extremely interesting over here as well. Let's run through the known injuries right now. Troy Reader, their inside linebacker, is out, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side, bump Minnesota and running backs and tight ends with his lack of availability. Their defensive lineman, Brandon Fisk, the rookie, he is questionable. Let's monitor him. If he's out, then we would bump the Minnesota running backs again. So some potential impactful injuries for the Minnesota running backs in the Rams defense. Jordan Whittington, frustratingly, was active last week. We expected him to play his regular role. He did not. He played 9 snaps and ran 0 routes. Guess his shoulder is not fully healthy. He will be out tonight. But thankfully, Cooper Kupp is making his return since that injury in week 2. Not even on the injury report expect his full participation. And he's going to be relatively low owned. We'll talk about that a little bit here when we get to the strategies and the lineup construction section. But Kupp is back, wide receiver 1 for the Rams. Now, Puka Nacua just started practicing. A couple of limited practices this week. Opened his practice window as well, similar to TJ Hockenson. He's been practicing less than Hockenson, and we just immediately assumed that he would not play this week, just a couple of practices. Beat reporters said he hasn't even worked with the first team offense against the scout team in practice. However, Tom Pelissero reported this morning, maybe a few minutes before I started recording this video, that Puka, there's optimism he will play tonight. Now, Tom Pelissero's on an island here. He's the only one reporting this. I'm a little skeptical. We've seen some dubious Tom Pelissero showdown reports before. Not saying he's wrong, just saying I find it highly unlikely that Nacua is active today. And if he is, that he plays his full complement of snaps. But he is priced like he is the full-time Puka Nacua. So probably not playable even if he is active, except for the largest GPPs on both sites. If we look at FanDuel, Puka is the minimum price, which would be a pretty big problem if he is active. That would make low risk contests extremely easy. It would make high risk a very interesting challenge. So let's monitor this. We'll know by 4 p.m. Eastern. This is extremely interesting. Much different pricing. FanDuel was not paying attention. I don't know why they would make him 5K. DraftKings made him near the maximum price, fourth highest priced player. So much different strategy if Puka is in, depending on the site that you're playing on tonight. Again, I think he's out. We'll see. We'll know by 4 p.m. If he's out, it'll be Cup number 1. It'll be Demarcus Robinson number 2. And it'll probably be Tutu Atwell, who will be popular at $4,200 as their wide receiver 3. Could be Tyler Johnson, though. We saw Tyler Johnson step in week 1 when Puka went down. Now, granted, different practices. They've played differently since then. But Tyler Johnson could be the guy, too. $3,200. All right. Lots of injuries. We need the water sip early. All right. Now let's talk about low risk contests, 50-50s, double ups. Head to heads just have to beat half the field to double your money. If we try to go with the play both quarterbacks, play both running backs approach on DraftKings, we can make it work. Kyren, Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, $2,600 per player makes it a little tough. You could play something like, if you tried to play Munt, it doesn't really work. If you play Josh Oliver, that could work. $3,400, maybe. Demarcus Robinson, that's possible. You could go Sam Darnold at captain because he's going to be extremely popular. He's a little cheap for his production and his projection, $9,400 for a quarterback. Put him 30-50. Let's see what this does. Let's play Johnny Munt here, 33. Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson. That is certainly possible. So there's certainly ways. We also see around the industry that Colby Parkinson will be popular at his price tag, $4,400. Sometimes on these types of scenarios, we like to play a mid-range captain or a cheaper captain to fit in all the guys we want. So if we tried that, I'll just show you what it looks like. I'm not sure we necessarily want to do this or need to do this, but this is another idea. You can run through the builder and see what pops out the most for you. Kyren, Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, $4,200. Then we could play Tutu Atwell. Possible. Certainly possible. So play around with it. You can fit the 4 guys in. It's just a matter of how you fit them in, which punts you use, and if you use them in the captain or in the flex spots. If you had to fade someone here, I guess you would fade Kyren. Maybe Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, $9,600. He's more expensive than both quarterbacks. Let's see. Kyren, if we put him in, let's see what this would look like. Kyren, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, $4,900. This looks a little better because then you could play Parkinson, Atwell. I mean, who do you play next? That's the thing here. If you fade Aaron Jones, you're not really getting up to someone else. So I think I would go for the double punt and playing Aaron Jones and all core 4 guys. Now, on FanDuel, if Puka is out, if Puka is in, watch what we can do. Kyren Williams, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Jones, and 5,000 left for Puka Nacua. I imagine the field will do this, but if they don't, they're playing dead. So they're drawing dead. So that's what you do. Now, if Puka is not in, which we don't expect, I think you have to fade Kyren here. He's the lowest owned of this group. He's really tough to fit in at his price tag, and you just get a much more balanced build if you fade Kyren here. And again, if you play both sides, you can play Kyren over on DraftKings and get your exposure there. Darnold, $10,250 per player. We could play the $12,000 Cooper Kupp, and then we could play a kicker. That seems like the more likely balanced approach if Puka Nacua is indeed out. So depends on if he's in or not. We'll monitor again. We'll know. You have 3 hours to build between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. and probably maybe a little later depending on the news if Puka's active and how much playing time he'll get. So a slate that we cannot build early and forget about it. We have to monitor it throughout the day. Now, let's talk about high-risk contests. And I do want to talk about the channel here for a second. So you might have noticed, if you've been subscribed, that we've started doing daily NBA DFS videos. I know a lot of you only subscribe for the NFL videos, and we certainly appreciate that. So if you're not subscribed, still make sure you do subscribe. You'll get notified when we go live or upload videos. Helps the channel out as well. Great free way to support the channel. However, we have gotten some feedback that some people only want NFL videos. They don't want to get notifications for the NBA videos every single day. I understand. I subscribe to various YouTube channels where I'm only interested in some of their content, not all of their content. There is one way to stay subscribed and kind of rectify that is we put all of our showdown videos on a playlist here on YouTube, the single game or showdown and short slate playlist. If you save that playlist, there's a little button, whether it's on the app on your phone or on the website or on your TV. If you save the playlist, you'll get more notifications about that playlist than you will any other videos. So that can help fix the I don't want NBA notifications, I only want NFL. Unfortunately, YouTube hasn't made it completely easy to subscribe to certain types of videos for our channel, but we appreciate you sticking around. We appreciate you subscribing as always, and don't click unsubscribe if you're not interested in NBA DFS. Just help us out here. We appreciate that. So, high risk contests, leagues, GPP, satellites, exponential payouts. Some ideas. Let's talk about them. Jordan Addison is the one underperforming wide receiver on tonight's slate. He's 11,000 on FanDuel. He is 7,000 on DraftKings. Has expected to score around 30 fantasy points over the last 3 weeks based on where his targets are on the field, how many targets, how many air yards towards the end zone. But he's only scored 16. And when he has a decent quarterback throwing him the ball like Sam Darnold, generally those guys regress into huge performances in the coming weeks. What better way than a lower owned piece on a showdown? We have him under 20% on both sites. Maybe gets over there depending on the contest, but underperforming wide receiver, a good, high quality second year guy in a good offense at lower ownership. You got to take advantage of that in high risk contests. So Jordan Addison, one of the better captain MVP plays. If you don't want to captain him, you can certainly play him in the flex as well. Other low owned plays, his teammate Jalen Naylor, who's going to run a bunch of routes as the wide receiver 3. Both defenses, and seemingly this hasn't worked very well this year, but the defenses will be low owned if they can get a pick 6 or a lower scoring game than expected. Both the Vikings and the Rams are under 20% projected ownership according to our Occupy model. Ty Chandler, Aaron Jones is fully healthy off the injury report, but he still had that injury 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, and we could always see a flare up. And even if Aaron Jones is healthy, Ty Chandler could vulture some work here or there. $3,600 is a good pivot and probably the larger contest. Not sure I would play him in small field GPPs. Who else we got? We talked about the Rams wide receivers. If Puka's out, even if Puka's in, this still matters. The field and ownership is expecting Tutu Atwell to be the wide receiver 3, and probably rightfully so. But I'm not sure we should be 100% certain in that. We saw the Whittington shenanigans last week. We saw Tyler Johnson get in for Puka Nacua instead of Tutu Atwell in week 1 after Puka went down. Who's to say Tyler Johnson isn't the wide receiver 3 over Tutu Atwell? I don't think that's the case, but ownership, the difference in the ownership probably is not accurate. So Tyler Johnson is a great high-risk pivot away from Tutu Atwell or other guys in this range. And then Blake Corum. Kyron seemingly going to get 100 touches per game, all the goal line looks, because I've never seen it. A coach that seems like he has the starting running back on his fantasy team, like Sean McVay does with Kyron Williams. But if Corum can get some extra work, steal some touches, $2,400, or God forbid an in-game injury, he's an extremely good high-risk play as well. So the field is also going to build pretty Rams heavy on both sides because of the Rams receivers, Colby Parkinson, and just the way the pricing is shaken out. So the field will build pretty Rams heavy. If you're not interested in that, if you're not interested in the lower owned plays, you could build Minnesota heavy. That's another way to get different. 5-1 stacks, 4-2 stacks on DraftKings, 3-2 stacks or 4-1 stacks on FanDuel. That is another way to get different tonight. But I think Jack, who was on the channel Monday for the short slate video, and maybe you don't want his advice. Sorry, Jack, after his Kyler Murray prediction in Monday's video. But his first thought today was he texted me early this morning, like way early, up thinking about it this game. Cooper Kupp, fully back, wide receiver 1, and he is 9% captain projected ownership on DraftKings, 4% MVP on FanDuel because of his price tag. We get Cooper Kupp, who was basically the wide receiver 1 for 2 weeks before he got hurt, and everyone was thinking if we redrafted today in week 3, Cooper Kupp would be the number 1 overall pick, and now we get him at 4% MVP and 9% DraftKings captain. No brainer to go heavy on him at captain in the largest contest. Easy. One final note I do want to make. Colby Parkinson, like I said, is going to be popular on DraftKings. Let's go to DraftKings here. Parkinson is $4,400 and generally has been easily the tight end one for the Rams. Last week was pretty interesting, and I don't know if it was game plan specific. I haven't read anything about it. If you find anything, let me know in the comments. But last week he ran 13 routes to a combined 12 for Hunter Long and Davis Allen. So Parkinson's $4,400, Hunter Long is $600, Davis Allen is $200. Compare that to week 5, the last time they played before last week, and Parkinson ran 37 routes compared to just 10 for those two guys combined. So I imagine, and at least the field is expecting to be like week 5, where Parkinson completely outruns these guys. If it's more like last week, then Hunter Long and Davis Allen, probably more for larger contests. Maybe Hunter Long in small field GPPs, I could see it. If it's more like last week, then Parkinson's not that great of a value, and these other guys are much better values. So that's another angle to take. And again, it's only a 1-week sample. You never know what Sean McVay is going to do. But when the ownership is this drastic, I think it's worth taking some shots at high risk on the other tight ends on the Rams. So that'll do it for this video. Remember, we have to monitor by 4 p.m. Eastern TJ Hawkinson's potential activation, Dalton Risner's potential activation, and then Puka Nakua's potential activation from injured reserve. Again, 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern, we'll know this. National reporters, local beat reporters will tweet this out. So be on the eye out for that. Our daily plug will be up later this afternoon after you watch this video, and we will update once we get news for the inactives and the injury reports. So make sure you check that out. Rankings, lineup strategy tips, more in depth than I can go in this video for specific contests for FanDuel and DraftKings. So check that out. And the Occupy model is up and running as well as the builder. If you haven't watched how to build NFL Showdown lineups in 2024, that video we posted here on YouTube, links in the description. Also tagged it at the beginning of the video. About an hour-long video. Plenty of time to go watch it today and see how we use our tools to build Showdown lineups, how I interpret our content and our tools to build profitable lineups. Go check it out. I think that's it. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Any questions, comment on the video. Happy to answer them. Join our Discord. Best way to talk to us and sweat out the game. So Brian for Occupy, thank you for listening and good luck on tonight's Vikings and Rams Showdown slate.